when you have a doctor's coming in your room, heart surgeons, and you hear one of the doctors tell you, well, you either let us fix you or you can go home and die. I guess you have no choice. You just tell them do what you got to do. Well, good morning, everybody. It's been a while since I've been able to preach. This is my first time back, and 3 weeks since I've been out of the hospital. I've been out of the hospital a little over a month, and just to let you know what happened to me, I caught a disease called Bartonella, which is, I was told, very rare. Some people don't even know it even exists. I didn't even know it exists. The doctor told me I had Bartonella. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, yeah, it's caused by a cat scratch. He asked me if I've been scratched by a cat lately. I said, well, about 6 months ago I got scratched by one of my stray cats, and I cleaned it real well. And he said, well, that's probably what caused it. Nevertheless, Bartonella is pretty lethal. What it did is attack my aorta valve in my, So my first heart surgery, like I showed it to you guys before, the Lord had brought me back because I died my first open heart surgery. I was gone for an hour, and it's the grace of God that He brought me back. I did get a taste of heaven, and I won't get into that, but here we go again. I don't want to say deja vu, but as I was going through my second open heart surgery, an out-of-body experience, like I've heard a lot of people talk about that before. Well, it actually happened to me. I saw myself on the operating table, and I was seeing myself, the surgeons operating on me with my heart wide open. All of a sudden, I felt something just take me. We all know the scriptures say, to be out of the body is to be present with the Lord. And the thing is when it took me, it started taking me straight down. And I was confused as I was going down. I saw everything almost like light speed going by my peripheral vision. I was confused. Also, when I landed into like a fire pit. It was hot. And I was like, Lord, this is hell. And all of a sudden I started looking around me, and I started seeing people down on their knees praying and crying out to the Lord for forgiveness, and people screaming and yelling and asking the Lord to have mercy on me. Please forgive me, Lord. Please let me go back. Let me share with everybody about what hell's like. Please let me go back, Lord, please. And I was hearing excruciating noises that I didn't even want to hear, and I was seeing things that I didn't even want to see, and people being tormented, and yells for people coming out to the Lord. God, didn't I do this in your name? Giving Him scriptures and screaming and yelling, and I was like, Lord, I don't understand. This isn't heaven. This is hell. And all of a sudden, even though I was in hell, I knew the Lord was still with me. I felt His presence. And I just said, Lord, I just don't understand what's happening here. And all of a sudden, I just felt like the Lord tell me, what, I'm going to give you a taste of heaven. Because when I turned around and finally looked, I saw there was this river that separated like hell from heaven. I could see heaven on the other side, but I couldn't get there. And those that were in heaven couldn't come over here to hell, but you could see each other. And all of a sudden the Lord told me, well, I'm going to give you a taste of heaven. Next thing I know, I found myself on the other side of this river. As I looked at the river, the water was beautiful. The most beautiful water I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, wow, it's so beautiful. I almost wanted to just jump inside of it. And then all of a sudden I looked down and I saw this big rock right there. And so I sat down on the rock and I dipped my hand into the water and drank some of that water. And all of a sudden from the side of my eye, I saw something approaching me, and that's when I looked, and it was the biggest wolf I've ever saw in my entire life. And I'm like, oh no, this wolf's going to bite my head off. The wolf approached me, and he came right by my head. And next thing I know, he dipped his head down, and he drank some water right beside me. And he turned around and looked at me, And he spoke these things to me, not because my mouth looked, flapping, but I could hear what he was saying, almost like mental telepathy. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he says, quite refreshing. You have a blessed day. He turns around, takes off running, and I'm just like stunned right now. And I see him running back with lambs and other different animals. Animals they normally would attack and kill each other. I saw alligators laying down with hippopotamus. I saw lions walking in and out of animals normally they would be attacking and killing, and they were all in harmony. And all of a sudden I felt the Lord just snatched me back and brought me back to hell. And he said, okay, I just want you to taste what's awaiting you. And while I was there, it was the most beautiful feeling. I didn't want to leave. I could see the gates leading into heaven. They were beautiful. There was gold and a gold road going into it, and I just didn't want to leave. But he brought me back to hell. And as I was walking into hell, all of a sudden I turned and I looked and I saw thousands of people hanging on a hook. And I didn't understand what that meant. And they were hanging on the hook, but also I heard the Lord say to me, these are the people that arrived dead already. They're alive. Even though they look like they're dead, they're in torment. And they're never going to die. And their feet were like 4 inches off the ground. And I said, Lord, I don't understand. What do you mean they arrived dead already? And I kept asking the Lord and asking the Holy Spirit to help me understand. And all of a sudden the Holy Spirit let me know that these are the walking dead that are here on earth. These are the people that are rejecting Jesus. They don't want nothing to do with him. They're dead already. They're the walking dead that are here on earth, and there's thousands of them still that need to be reached. And my heart hurt when the Lord told me that. And yet, all of a sudden from there he had me go to I was put to work right away when I was in hell. It was almost just a repetitious job that I didn't even know what I was making, like some type of plates or something, but they put pictures of people that I loved on the wall that I was facing. Put a picture of my son wearing a mask. I don't know what was the deal with the mask, but he had a picture of my son when he was young wearing a mask, and had the picture of the Lion of Judah that meant a lot to me. And as I was working and barely being able to breathe, and I thought, okay, for sure this is my last breath, I'm going to die. No, all of a sudden I get a surge of energy and I get back to where I can breathe again. And the thing is when you're in hell, it says you're going to be tormented forever. You're never going to die. Even though excruciating the pain that you're going through, you're never going to die. And I was experiencing that already. And the pictures that I had on my wall, all of a sudden, they would get distorted and turned ugly and ugly visions that I didn't even want to see. And you could hear gnashing of teeth, and a skull would look beautiful compared to the visions that I was seeing on the walls. I was like, I didn't want to see those pictures of my loved ones. They would contort them and make them look terrible. And hearing gnashing of teeth and screams and yells, and I tried to close my eyes because I didn't want to see them, but even though I closed my eyes, I still could see the visions of them, and they wouldn't stop. And I would turn around and I'd see a man on his knees praying to God, begging him, please let me go back. Let me go back. Let me go back so I can tell everybody what's going on. And everywhere I would turn, there would be people begging and screaming and yelling for God to have mercy on them, to let them go back to earth so they could tell people about hell. Please, they were begging and screaming. I finally turned around and I looked and I saw like a long, long road that went along the river. And I was like, I decided I was going to take a walk down that road to see what it was all about. And as I was walking down the road, all of a sudden I came across, it almost seemed like sections of people that were in hell. The first section I came to were worship teams that were in hell. Worship teams that were in big churches that were worshiping the Lord as they were serving them. The next thing I know, I saw worship leaders. And then I saw pastors, preachers, and teachers, and big name evangelists and prophets, and I just couldn't understand. I was like, how did this pastor end up in hell? It just didn't make sense to me. And these were big names, and I just didn't understand. And the next thing I know, I kept walking, and I came across politicians, big name politicians that were in hell, and it just didn't make sense to me. But I kept on walking and walking, and then all of a sudden